Hello, my name is Jonathan Samir Mathis, and I am a professor of neuroscience at Northeastern University, as well as the president and founder of the Free MoCap Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the enhancing the accessibility of high technology in educational, scientific, artistic circumstances, mostly through the development of free open source projects that take advantage of the technological advances that are coming online. And in this video, I am going to specifically be talking about the AI-powered tools that I have been both developing and using for my own projects, as well as for teaching and mentoring students in my lab, and most relevantly to the conversation, to this video, that I have been using in the past 4 semesters of my teaching responsibilities at Northeastern. This is going to be kind of rough. I apologize for that, but I am currently traveling and I don't have time for much polish, so I'm mostly going to try to provide an overview of some of the things that I've been learning about the use of AI in the context of research and teaching classes, and highlight some of the ways that I've been using these tools in my own teaching environments. So my background, so my current research is focused on the neural control of human movement in natural environments, but my educational background is, my bachelor's degree was focused, in my bachelor's degree I got a bachelor's degree in philosophy with a focus on philosophy of mind and philosophy of science and philosophy of language. And then I, after that, got a PhD in cognitive science, where I started shifting more towards the neurosciences, but the degree itself was very focused on machine learning and AI. And the moment that GPT-4 came online, I started working along with some friends and colleagues from my graduate school era to develop tools that utilize AI that will to assist us in our research and also in the teaching, in using them for educational purposes and teaching classes. So this video is going to look at a quick overview of the current status of the SkellyBot project, which is the AI chatbot that have been utilizing. Skelly is a reference to the mascot of the Free MoCap project, and the chatbot itself is sort of it's a like all interesting project. It's an iterative thing, so it's the current status is quite different from the potential, but I think that it has it is good enough to sort of show what the potentials for these types of things are. AI, as we have heard many times in many ways from many people, is a truly transformative technology. It stands to reshape the way that we handle a lot of aspects of our society, and I believe that it has a specifically high potential to fundamentally shift the way that we handle education, both in terms of the kinds of one-to-many teaching arrangements that we call classes, where one professor teaches, many students, as well as the kind of one-to-one mentorship that you typically see in the relationships between research professors and their graduate students and postdocs, and sort of the individualized mentorship that can happen in those contexts. I suppose I will start by talking about this in the context of the current status of SkellyBot, and then talk about it more specifically in the context of this course that I'm teaching, the neural control of real-world human movement. So SkellyBot, what am I trying to do here? Pause. Okay, hi, I'm back. So it's difficult to make a video like this because on the one hand, I want to be concise and to the point and not waste a lot of your time. But on the other hand, it's very difficult to say anything specifically and confidently about AI at the present moment because we are so fundamentally off the map that it seems almost to the point of academic dishonesty to say anything about that with anything resembling confidence. Like, I don't want to come on here and say, hey, here's how AI is going to be used for teaching, here's how AI is going to be used for research, here's how we should do things, here are the risks, here's how to mitigate them, here's because we don't really know. And I think that one of the aspects of the current moment in time is going to have to be this sort of collective exploration of the kinds of things that these technologies can be used for and should be used for, and the pitfalls are going to emerge over the course of that exploration. And so I'm going to talk more specifically about the ways that I personally have used this tool in my own life, in my lab, in my research, and in my teaching, and do so in the context of that exploration. And just to be clear, who knows where any of this will go. I think that one of the most fundamental lessons learned here, and I think one of the most fundamental aspects of what I've learned about AI is this tagline to the SkellyBot software, which is, "This bot helped me build this bot." You hear a lot of stuff in the conversations around AI about, like, does it improve productivity? Is it good for this or that? Is it good for teaching? Is it good for training? And fundamentally, for me personally, I have experienced directly that although it is not a silver bullet that will solve all of your problems, it is a tool which, when properly wielded, will absolutely allow you to operate above your own level. And this software is something which I fundamentally could not have done without the assistance of AI. It was not something I was completely new to, but the software itself represents the ways that a person who is properly capable and has sort of been properly, I don't want to say trained because I didn't get external training, but through the course of exploration, I was able to use this tool to build something that I could not have done without the tool, or rather that I could have done without the tool, but it would have taken me so much longer that it probably wouldn't have happened. And that ability to use AI to enhance your own abilities is the kind of thing that I am trying to fold into my teaching methods. I think that one of the core aspects of using AI in a teaching context, using it with students, either as one-to-one mentorship with graduate students or one-to-many teaching in sort of a classroom setting, I think that any tool that we make for students or for teaching, or honestly in any context, if it includes AI, there has to be a component of the software which is designed to teach the user of the tool how the tool works at a deeper and more fundamental level than we tend to experience with modern software applications and technology. And this is because the pitfalls of AI are real. It will hallucinate. It will lie to you. It will say wrong things. And it will say those things within the context of saying the right things, and learning how to navigate that, learning how to sort of use, to extract the meaningful, useful stuff from the responses of these AI tools, I think is a fundamental aspect of using them. And so as we start building AI-powered tools for teaching and research and educational context, we have to keep that consideration in mind, that these tools will have to be, to some extent, open boxes. And that's also why I think that fundamentally, when we think about AI tools in teaching and research, we have to be thinking about them in the context of free and open source software. I think that it is, because I think it's arguably unethical to build these kinds of tools as the sort of proprietary black boxes that we often experience in the current software landscape, because the to use these things correctly, you have to have a deep understanding of what's going on internally. So, with that said, let's talk a little bit more about the actual class that I am using to teach, that I'm teaching using in this spot on the current semester, and talk a little bit about how AI is allowing me to teach this course in a way that I could not teach this class in a way that I could not teach without AI, and how that is allowing the students to, or how it has historically allowed the students, and how I hope this semester it will continue to allow the students to engage with the material at a deeper and more flexible way than would be possible without these kinds of tools. So, my particular domain of research within the neurosciences is on the visual control of human movement in natural environments. And my particular background in that is this very broadly cross-disciplinary approach, which involves visual neuroscience, biomechanics, touching on robotics, motor, sort of musculoskeletal physiology, evolutionary phylogeny, in addition to the sort of general philosophical background that I have, and the sort of software development, tools building, computational approaches that are kind of obvious by the fact that I'm showing you two GitHub repositories representing my classes and tools I've built for these types of things. Because and all of those things kind of come together to form the basis of the research that I do as a research scientist, in addition to my teaching responsibilities. And the sort of broadly and deeply cross-disciplinary nature of this research makes it fundamentally difficult to teach, especially in the one-to-many kind of undergraduate classroom type of setting, because no student will ever come in with the appropriate background to engage with every aspect of that research domain, because it is so broad and it tends to be split across different departments and things like that. So if I want to teach that type of, if I want to teach a group of students my perspective on the proper way to study human movement, historically, before AI came on the scene, I had to kind of make some choices about whether I was going to pick a very narrow window into the research that I'm interested in and focus on teaching that, so that students could sort of have a hope of being able to teach the students so that they can actually understand parts of it, while sort of understanding that I'm not going to be that it's going to be a very narrow slice, or I can teach a very broad, sort of very broad and shallow kind of survey of the topics that are relevant to the course, and understand that the students will not be getting a very sophisticated view on any of the particular subtopics of the domain of teaching that I'm trying to engage in. And that's always been frustrating, because I want to teach the students and I want to sort of bring them in, but it's difficult to find the right level to engage at. And it's also difficult because the nature of teaching and creating a curriculum and building a course in the traditional modes of teaching requires kind of building a fairly narrow band of content, which is basically like, I come in and I present to the students, hello, here is the particular view on this topic that I am going to teach you over the course of this class. And the sort of the necessity of narrowing things down can, I think, lead to a misunderstanding from the student's perspective that the view that the professor is teaching them is somehow the correct view on that topic, and not a compromise that the professor is being forced to make between the realities of the broad complexity of the world and the necessities of being able to sort of choose a curriculum that a student could ever have a hope of learning. And I believe that over the course of using AI tools and teaching for the past 4 semesters, that I have found at least the beginnings of a methodology of using AI as a way to provide a level of individual tutelage and individual exploration of flexibility that I think could be pretty transformative within the educational context. So this is just a quick overview of the course that I'm teaching, and it's basically a syllabus of sorts. And I'm mostly showing it just to give a sense of the breadth of topics that are being covered here. And with that, yeah. Okay, so basically the strategy that I'm using in using the AI is based off of the understanding, that everyone knows that the best form of education is one-to-one direct mentorship, and that if I am teaching a classroom full of 40 people, the best possible idealized version of that class would be for me to sit down with each student individually for an hour a week, or rather to be 100% on call for that student, and to answer all of their questions and explain every tidbit to them and tell them about all the things and only the things, well, not only the things, but all the things that they want to know about the domain of inquiry associated with the class. That is both obviously the most idealized form of the class and also obviously an impossible thing to achieve, because there's not enough of me and there's not enough time in the week for me to give each student that kind of individualized instruction. So the idea is to use AI to basically build a simulation of what it would be like if I could provide that kind of direct one-to-one teaching. And I do that by way of putting SkellyBot instance in a Discord server, where the Discord server is structured in a way that mimics the structure of the content of the course. So if we look at this syllabus overview here, it talks about visually guided motion in the context of the sort of separation between aspects of the body, musculoskeletal system, biomechanics, evolution, motion capture, Newton's laws, things like that, and in the context of the sensory, specifically visual components in terms of the visual neuroscience, oculomotor control, eye tracking, and sort of things like that. And so now if we look here, this is, I can show this. And technically, the students do consent to having their usernames sort of visible in videos and things like that. Not technically, they do explicitly, but I just feel weird showing anything student related in a recording. But this is the Discord server associated with the class. If you're not familiar with Discord, it's basically like a Slack type of thing. It's effectively a chat server. This course that I'm teaching this semester has a once a week in-person meeting, and then I sort of have a hybrid thing where a lot of the assignments happen through Discord, in addition to the traditional learning management system, Canvas, that the university uses. And how should I show this? And so this is the server as already set up. I won't click on this because then it will show the students, but there's 40 of them some odd in this course. And this is a blank server. There's nothing in here at all. I just made it like 10 minutes ago by clicking the button on the bottom, making the course. And I'm currently the only person in here. So the first thing I need to do is invite the bot to the server. See, Discord, why you gotta do that? Do over here. So if I click this link, so this is an invite link for the bot. If you are viewing this, you can use the QR code and invite it to your own servers. It's not widely distributed at the moment, but it is technically available for usage. And it runs on a Google Cloud instance, which is what drives the communication. At the moment, the actual AI component itself is fairly basic. It's effectively just a port onto GPT-4. There is a tremendous amount of possibility in terms of utilizing agentic AIs as well as retrieval augmented generation and things of that nature. Not implemented yet, but will be implemented in the future. And this is, don't worry about the right side there. Nothing important. That was just logs. But this instance of a virtual machine on Google Cloud is technically the thing that is running the SkellyBot software, and it is running basically the code at this repository here. So first thing I do is invite test. Go. Yes. Come on. Go ahead. Wonderful. There we are. And SkellyBot has now entered the server. And if I wanted to have a conversation with SkellyBot, all I'd have to do is type /chat, and then optionally put a starting question, or if I just hit enter, it just starts a blank chat. This again is effectively identical to just going to the OpenAI ChatGPT interface and just having a chat there. And if I talk to it, I can say, "Hi, what's your deal?" It will speak to me in a very sort of generic GPT way. And I'll talk a little bit in a second about how to get around that. But this is effectively, it's GPT 4.0. There's currently no configuration that's available, but that's something that I'll put later. And I want to add the ability to basically choose whether or not you want to talk to things like GPT-4 or Claude 3 or especially like local models and things like that. It's all very, it could be configured, it just hasn't been implemented yet. And so as I, tell me about birds, whatever. And so as I have this conversation and the bot responds, up here there is this markdown file that gets updated continuously. That includes at the top this sort of configuration aspect, so like the location of the conversation, here's the server, here's the channel, here's the blah, blah, blah. And then a transcript of the conversation itself. And I think if I rerun that, should have so each conversation in the server has this, the conversation is attached in plain raw text, which is important for other purposes, which I may or may not have time to talk about. So the current iteration of this bot uses Discord exclusively as the interface. Discord is not ideal in a wide variety of ways, but it does do the job. And it basically allows me to sidestep the very difficult task of building a user interface, and allows me to basically piggyback on all the work that Discord has done to make a stable and stable interface for having conversations and chat conversations with humans, and then AI bots are effectively similar things. So this conversation right here is not much different from a standard conversation with any AI. Where it starts to get more interesting is when you start adding more channels and building there's a system of hierarchical prompting that occurs within this interface, which I will show you presently. So, one second, please. So I just went and found this file, which is a configuration YAML file, which I made for this course. And what it effectively outlines the categories and channels and sort of channel topics that I want this server to have. And so all I gotta do is go in here, right click that message, go to apps, say deploy server from attachment. And it's a little bit slow and a little bit clunky and it doesn't quite do everything I wish it could. But it basically will build the server from that configuration file according to the specifications in that YAML. And what's nice about that is it allows for the sharing of courses in a very easy way. So I could, if I design a certain server setting, server configuration for a class that I want to teach, and all I would have to do is share that YAML file with you, and then you could put that in your own space and then teach a similar class. And then, actually I'm going to pause it real quick because I have to do something else. Oh, is it? I think it lags a bit on this, but one second. Okay, so it finished itself up, and I did a little bit of cleanup because there's just some fiddliness in it. It's fine. And so now there is all of this stuff in the server, and the most important one to point out is this. So within the server there are these categories. The categories are basically home for sub-channels. And then there's this channel up here, which is not within a category, so that is a top level channel. And it's a special channel called prompt settings, and it contains these messages which have been tagged with this bot emoji. And so unlike before when I started a chat and it was a generic conversation using generic GPT-4, GPT-4o, I suppose. Now, if I go back into this general channel and say /chat again and pop it open, now you can see that the response is now tuned to the actual course itself. So I can say, hi, I'm a pre-med student with an interest in vision. What's interesting there? And it will now give me a response that has now been tuned by the content of these servers, which includes a copy of that syllabus with the course description and overview topics, as well as this other blob of prompting, which sort of corresponds to the personality that I would like the bot to espouse and the sort of the task, which largely, sort of broadly speaking, the prompt is encouraging the bot to sort of to allow the students to explore topics and sort of navigate the broad space covered by the topic of the course, with some specific choices made to get the personality to be more interesting. So, for example, this one here was necessary to keep it basically pointing out, giving it these sort of references to like these sort of more like radicalist kind of teaching philosophies was necessary to get it to be a little more laid back in the context of teaching, because the nature of these LLMs is like but when I first started, I said, hey, you're a teaching assistant. It was very like teachy, like everything's about the class and everything's about like, assignments and tests and blah, blah, blah. And I had to add prompting to get it to be more flexible and more willing to allow the students to explore, which is a whole separate conversation. But now, and so similarly within this space, if I go back and look at this this chat config like I showed before, it now includes this a copy of the context instructions and system prompt, which outlines the topic of the course. Now, every conversation that is had with the bot in this server is preloaded with this system prompt, which will both make sure that all the conversations have the bot sort of appropriately configured to have the right kinds of conversations. And because of the work that went into the sort of the personality and task sides of things, I can be fairly confident that every conversation that a student has with the bot in the server will be, broadly speaking, on topic. And this is something that I've confirmed in the former iterations of this class. The bot will, it will allow them to talk about whatever they want, but it will always be sort of gently steering things back to the topic of the course. And so the nature of that sort of gentle steering allows me to be much more hands-off in terms of the specific topics that the students have to talk about, because I know that whatever the conversations are, they will always be sort of roughly within the domain of interest of the course. And we'll come back to that in a second. So this is conversations with the general server. Within the specific subtopics, the prompting that the bot receives will be updated according to the specific location within the server that the conversation is happening. So if I say, "Hi, what are we supposed to talk about in this channel?" And the prompting here is fairly anemic, and part of the course is going to be working with the students to sort of flesh out some of these topics. But you can see in its response that the bot can see the topic of the course, the topic of the channel, and it can also see messages that are pinned to that channel. So expanding out this thing again, you can see that within the space it gets the server-wide instructions here. And then specifically it also gets this channel-specific instructions which talk about this. And if I add a message here and say, let's focus on cortical aspects of visual processing, perception. I make that in there. I can pin that to the channel, and then I can start a new chat. And you can see that pin message also gets in there. So basically, so there's a hierarchical prompting structure within this server that allows me as the professor to carve up this topic into the categories and chunks that I think are the most relevant to the course. But then in the course of teaching the class, a lot of the assignments that I have with the students are to go into particular parts of the server and start having conversations with the bot about that domain. So at the beginning of the semester, I don't have much to show in terms of the plans, but the plans are basically to allow the students to kind of like flow into the parts of the topic space that they find most interesting, and then assist in the construction of this server by talking with the bot and sort of fleshing out these topics, and then putting those topics into the topic prompt for that section, and basically fleshing out and adding more specificity to the kinds of conversations that the bot is going to be prompted to have within the server. And then toward the end of the semester, after I have sort of extracted enough conversational content from that, after the students have had enough sort of free-form conversations, I can extract that information and then use it to group them into specific category, like just into sort of small groups based off of shared interests. So I can say, oh, hey, these three students have all talked mostly about these particular areas. So I'm going to put them together and sort of allow them to sort of explore that topic together. And in this course, the assignment will be to create another server like this. So basically, the students will work on doing the same kind of task that I have been doing to carve up this course structure into this sort of like hierarchical landscape. But they will be doing so in their own particular sub area of interest, and then the actual sort of final aspect of the project will be for them to then present those servers to the rest of the class and sort of have, it's kind of like the class then be taught in microcosm, where they then bring the students, other students into their space and learn how to navigate that. And then the nature of the software is that they will then be able to take that going forward, and they can use that as part of their own continuing education and continuing exploration of the topics that get covered here. And by the end of the course, they will have enough experience both in the topic landscape of human movement neuroscience, as well as the configuration and prompting of these bots to basically prompt them to be teaching tools for whatever the domain of interest is, and sort of the educational aspects that come out of that. And this is not something that I can show on the fly right now, but an aspect of the plan is to, within the space, so within the course, like it's an hour and 40-minute class, and the plan is to give a lecture for the first 45 minutes or so, and then using some scripts that I have on hand, this is a video transcription mechanism, record the videos while I'm giving them, and then extract the audio, transcribe it using Whisper, which is another OpenAI thing, build an outline out of that, and then put the outline to the lecture in a channel. And then part of the assignment will be to go into that channel and ask the bot questions about the lecture. And this is particularly interesting for this type of a course, for an undergraduate level course, because it allows me, and it has and will continue to allow me to be much, much, much denser and higher level in the content that I present in the lecture, because I will not be as tied to the assumption that it's necessary for the students to like follow along every step of the way. It will be okay, and it's sort of part of the teaching experience to ask them to like I'm going to be presenting stuff to you at a level that is higher than is reasonably reasonable for an undergraduate course, but it is closer to the way that I would talk about this to other sort of peers within my field. And then so for you as students, the goal is not necessarily to follow everything that I'm saying. It's to keep your brains open enough that you don't completely shut down in the face of the information that's being thrown at you. And then just notice as the lecture goes by which aspects are the most appealing and most engaging, and which are the parts that you want to know more about. And then they'll be able to go into the lecture prompted channel on the server, which again, I don't have any examples of that, unfortunately, because of the time of the semester it is. And they will be able to have a conversation about the specific parts of the lecture that they were the most motivated by. And over the course of the semester, what that will basically carve out is, for the 40 students in the class, there will be 40 trajectories through this space as each of them sort of picks and chooses the domain, the areas within the domain that they find the most appealing, the most interesting. And the bot will then help them to navigate those spaces and explore more and learn more about their unknown unknowns, and sort of teach them some of the topics and some of the jargon. And that sort of AI-assisted sort of pseudo-mentorship will be coupled with working with me, a human, directly in the classroom setting, as I help them to go beyond just the stuff that the AI is going to feed to them, because show them how to go and look up papers on this topic. This is the kind of thing that could be done automatically eventually, but show them how to basically dive, the the bot will allow them to sort of like find a space within the class topic that is appealing to them. And then once they have that space, I can help them dive deeper within those topics and sort of find like the other parts that sort of touch that domain. And then they can, go back to the bot and, this nicely hybrid cycle of AI assisted exploration with sort of human assisted tutelage, both in the subtleties of the topics that AI will probably miss, and also skill share and teaching with sort of the proper ways to use AI to do these types of explorations. Yeah. So I think that's about the long and short of it. Um, I think, where are we here? 40 minutes in. So that was a lot in a short amount of time. Sort of a broad and um, sort of a nice example of the kinds of things I'm talking about. I hope that it was clear. I hope that it was clarifying. And once this video is over, I will do the thing that I described before of pulling the audio, scraping it, transcribing it, and then asking the bot to shape it into a hopefully useful outline of the topics covered. And that will be shared. I guess I can put that in the. I'm going to upload this to YouTube under an unlisted video to start, and then I'll open it up after sort of the appropriate time, and I'll include the outline in that description. That is the AI generated one, and yeah, I hope that's helpful. Hope you find it interesting and motivating. I hope you are as excited as I am about the potential futures associated with tools like this. And understanding that this is the very, very early days of this bot in particular, and also tools like this in general. And I think as the technology matures and we develop more sophisticated user interfaces and methodologies of interacting with these large language models, we will also start to create and discover and realize a wider variety of methods to use these tools to enhance our capacity to educate large numbers of people in complex, nuanced, and sophisticated topics in a way that I believe will be utterly transformative at a societal level.